There has been a, call it a resurgence of talk about Bitachon. It is thousands of people get daily messages and reminders about Bitachon. It is very much in vogue. Um, Intriguing that it should be part of the theme of Jewish life is talk about bitachon. I don't know if we can attribute it to a resurgence and a reconnection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe part of the reason why we need so much of this reminder about bitachon has to do with the amount of damage that was done in the post-Holocaust world, but it is a phenomenon, and people hear about it and talk about it. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to contribute to that conversation that might be foundational for people who are looking to enhance and increase their bitachon. So the first thing is that bitachon is can be described operationally. That means that when we used to teach cooperative learning, so in cooperative learning, one of the things that is done is that you teach the students a social skill. And everything that you try to teach as a social skill has to be something that can be operationalized. If you can't see what it looks like, if you can't hear what it sounds like, then a student can't learn what it is. So, for example, if we wanted to teach the students to encourage, so they taught us to make a T chart. And on one side, it was, of course, the heading was encouraging. And one side, it was, okay, what does encouraging look like? Means if you walked into a room and encouraging was going on, you couldn't hear anything, you could only see. What would you see? And together with the students, they would come up with nodding of heads. They would see eye contact. They would see one person talking, but not talking when the other one is speaking. They would see maybe some smiles. They would see gestures of inviting the other person's response. So that would be what encouragement looks like, even if I can't hear it. And then we would go to talk about what encouragement sounds like. I can't see anything in the room. I can only hear what would I be hearing if encouraging was going on. And that would be things like the students would say, well, what would it feel like? If you heard somebody encouraging you, what would you be hearing? What do you think? Um, Give it a nice try. Give it another try. Um, you might hear um, not words of praise because we try to get away from praise, stay with encouragement. But there's a T chart of what it looks like and what it sounds like, so that students who are trying to build their capacity for encouraging can look at the T chart on the wall and can determine whether what they're saying and doing is working them closer to encouraging. So here's the T chart for Bitachon. The T chart for Bitachon of what it looks like. It looks like smiles. It looks like relaxed. It looks focused. It looks on task. It looks It it is distinct in that it is it looks like the person is not bogged down. The person may be focused and looking at the task at hand, maybe even intently looking at the task at hand, but there isn't what appears, and you can sense when a person is bogged down, and that's remarkably absent in the case of bitachon. So what you would be looking at is almost asking the question, what does joy look like? What would I see if joy was going on? What would I even if I couldn't hear anything, what would I see that would tell me that there was joy, that there was a sense of peace, that there was an openness, an availability to the reality that Hashem is presenting. So it's the side of the T chart of what it looks like could be developed as operational bitachon. What is it? What would it look like if bitachon was going on in the room, even if I couldn't hear anything? And then you go over to the other side. Well, what would I, what would I hear? I couldn't see, but I could hear. What would I be hearing to know that bitachon is going on in the room? And you'd be hearing voices that are not intense. You'd be hearing um, a pace that was not uh, driven in a sense of, and I don't mean to say that people who have bitachon are not passionate. I mean that it does not feel like a gotta. It feels like this is what I've chosen to do. And so the sound is not critical, and maybe it's not so useful to talk about what it's not, but I haven't worked out the T chart to the point where it's only um, the essays and not the los essays, but it wouldn't sound critical. It wouldn't sound short-tempered. It would sound available. It would sound like, let's do this. And there would be a sorting process where this is, let's do this, as opposed to something else which could easily be let go of because it isn't part of my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the first thing that we need to contribute to the bitachon discussion is the T chart, where everybody needs to be working out in their minds, what would I look like and what would I sound like if I was increasing my bitachon? And obviously that's going to be nuanced for each person, but the general picture of what bitachon looks like and sounds like is something that every person should develop so that they know where they're heading. Where is the goal? Where am I trying to get to? Is can only be done if I have a picture of what that would look like. So that's the first thing that I would want to contribute to the discussion about bitachon, is that each person should develop their internal T chart. What would I be like if I had even more bitachon than I presently have? And the words calm and joy should inevitably work their way into that discussion, and clarity and focus and purpose and meaning, and this is why I'm here. There's a sense of um, clarity to the purpose because we're here to build bitachon. The other thing that I would want to contribute comes from this Beis Halevi that I posted, which is a very interesting follow-up to the T chart. The Beis Halevi is saying that our engagement with the physical world what some people might refer to as hishtadlus. Our engagement with the world is based on what I need to get to my T chart. That means that if I don't put my laundry into the washing machine, I am still going to worry that it's not going to get clean. You say, but you shouldn't be there. You should be on a higher level of bitachon. After all, for 40 years, Hashem took care of the laundry of Klal Yisrael, and it remained clean, and He cleaned it. The answer is yes, but I'm not there, and my world is not there. My world is a world where the 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 way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is operating in the world is via the washing machine. That's the way that He is cleaning my clothes, is via the washing machine. So the Beis HaLevi is saying that each person is meant to do the hishtadlus that he knows will get him to that place of calm and joy. So there's a myth that says that you just do as much hishtadlus as you can possibly do, and then hope that HaKadosh Baruch Hu picks it up from there. That is a false picture of the story, because it doesn't engage with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the process. It only engages with HaKadosh Baruch Hu after the process. In the process, there is, to whatever degree the person is able to remind themselves that I know that it can become obsessive, so I must leave it for people to make the assessment on their own. But we have to view our preparation for doing the laundry, if we're going to use that example, the preparation for using the laundry is, am I able to do the laundry without forgetting about HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That's the operating question. Can I do the laundry without forgetting that Hashem is the one who cleans the clothing? You say, well, how am I supposed to know that? So I think that here is the third sort of thing that I wanted to preface in the world of Bitachon is, I don't know for how many people saying the brachos in the morning can set them into a gear where throughout the day they will still be conscious of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu's involvement. That when they say Sha'asali Kol Tzarki, that actually helps them. It makes an impact, so that they don't have to necessarily keep on repeating Sha'asali Kol Tzarki in the course of the whole day, but maybe they do need to be repeating it in the course of the whole day. That's very individual. To the extent to which a person can make the statement at the beginning of the day and have it work. I remember in the matzah factories, we used to be told, you make this announcement at the beginning of the baking process, and kol ma shani oseh hayom, hareini oseh l'shem mastos mitzvah. Everything that I'm going to be doing should be l'shem matzos mitzvah, because matzos must be baked lishma. Can't be yotzei if the matzos weren't made for the sake of being matzos mitzvah. So everything is being, and I wonder, people are working the dough and rolling it out and flipping it over, and are they still thinking about the fact that it's l'shem matzos mitzvah? Well, maybe for some, for sure. For some, they said it and it makes the impact. It leaves the it yes, whatever they're doing subsequently is under that umbrella. For others, I suspect that they need to be saying it more often. I suspect that it's not really it doesn't really capture their consciousness the way that it needs to. And it's a very high level to get to the point where my consciousness is always with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think that David HaMelech praised himself when he says, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid, ki mini bal emot. And I know everybody knows the first half of that pasuk because it's on every stender and every amud of the Shliach Tzibur in most shuls. Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. Ki mini bal emot is a little bit less familiar to people. And that means that I won't trip over my right. Well, there's a lot of explanations for that, but I'll give you what my thought is. What David Melech is saying is that when I walk into the door, if you look at a door near you, you walk into the door, and somebody was to walk into the door and smack their right arm into the door frame, what would you assume? Well, might have been a mistake. There might be a neurological disorder. The person might be drunk. But if you said to the person, "Are you okay?" So what's the problem? It's my arm, not me. And you say, "No, it doesn't work like that." A normal person tracks himself through the opening of the door, making room for his right arm. It's just a given. He doesn't have to even think about it. When he goes through the door, he tracks himself such that he makes room for his right arm. David HaMelech was able to say about himself that he had reached the point of awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's involvement and engagement in his life, that he didn't trip over his right. That was that's how, to what degree he was Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid, ki mimini bal emot, just like I don't trip over my right arm. It's just there. I think that each person needs to make an assessment of what do I need? How much reminder? What do I need to build into my schedule, into my routine, into my system, into my thought process? And I think each person is different. For some people, the announcement, Sha'asali kol tzarki, or whatever announcement they make in the morning, stays with them, just as we would hope that L'Shem Matas Mitzvah stays with the workers through the hours of their work. And there are others who have to be honest with themselves and say, I need a lot of reminders. I very quickly and very easily lapse into assuming that what works is the machine. The machine works. And I suddenly find myself forgetting that this is just the way that Hashem chose to bring this outcome into the world, that the machine doesn't work by itself. It doesn't have any inherent working. It works because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to use that as his way to bring his will into the world. So that's the other item that I would want to preface the world of Bitachon with. So the people should be thinking about this interesting phenomenon of there being much discussion about Bitachon, and to go back over these foundational questions and say, am I preparing myself in the course of my day to have an increased relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, such that the major pushes, of course, the regalim, the shalosh regalim, tefillah, the major pushes help me to work with the day-to-day activities of my life, but that I'm not forgetting, I'm not losing track. How do I know if I'm losing track? I go back to the teacher. I go back and look to see, am I getting closer to the way I know or that I sense that bitachon looks like, feels like, sounds like? What is it? How would it look if I was increasing my level of bitachon? And in so doing, I can know if I'm in that right direction, or perhaps need to make an adjustment. So I just wanted to make that contribution. If anybody wants